DATV, and the Greater Dayton Area League of Women Voters present Meet the Candidates, your chance to learn about the candidates running for office in the November election.
Hello, I'm Sandy Williams with the League of Women Voters of the Greater Dayton Area. I'm here today with candidates for the office of Dayton School Board. There are 4 candidates running for 3 open seats on the board. Those candidates are Joe Lacey, Gabriela Pickett, Dion Sampson Sr., and Will Smith. We have 3 of those candidates here with us today. Mr. Will Smith could not attend today. He regrets he has a previous commitment. Okay, we'll start our interviews having candidates tell us about themselves and why they chose to run for this particular position. Could we start with you, Joe?
Certainly.
Yes.
Yes, I am Joe Lacey. I was on the board for 12 years before, and I'm currently not. I'm a parent. I have a daughter that attends Ruskin. She's in 5th grade, and I think that would be helpful to the board to have another parent on the board. The perspective of a parent is very valuable to our school board, I believe. I'm also a certified public accountant. When I was on the board before, I was very helpful, I believe, with financial matters. I was always putting together spreadsheets for board members to help them understand things. I served as chair of the finance committee. I think they need that kind of help currently in financial matters as we go forward. I want to run because I want to help our board do the best that they can. And that's basically why I'm running.
Okay, all right. Thank you very much for that, Joe. Next we have Gabriela. Could you tell us a bit about yourself and how it is you came to run for this position?
Sure. I am an advocate of the community. I've been an activist all my life, and I focused a lot on education about 30 years ago when my eldest son was diagnosed with autism, and so I've been fighting for getting the services that he needs. I learned how to fight the system when it comes to getting IEPs for students. And that kind of carried over with my activism and my advocacy. So I've been helping families for many, many years to get the services that they need for their children. And lately, in addition to fighting for IEPs, I've been trying to help them get the services for English as a second language learners, children with interrupted education. I've been so interested in education that I further my education, and I have a PhD in international education, where I look for best practices around the world so that they can be implemented here. And so I've been helping many students. I've found some roadblocks along the way with the board, and I figured that I would be most helpful if I'm actually on the board.
Okay, thank you so much, Gabriela. Okay, Dion.
So my name is Dion Sampson Sr. I am a native Daytonian, product of Dayton Public Schools. I have 4 children in Dayton Public Schools, 2 that attend Rivers Edge, 2 that attend Wright Brothers. So I've decided that since I am providing a voice and fighting for my 4 children, that I might as well fight and provide a voice for the other 10,270 students in the Dayton Public School District. I've been serving this community as a community servant for 23 years. I've been in education for 23 years. And it was a teacher who really saved my life. He pushed me to go to college, but at the same time, it was an educator who told me that I would be dead at 18 and would never amount to anything. So it has been for the last 23 years of my life that I've been committed to this city and to education and helping young people be successful.
Thank you. Thank you so much. With our first question here, we're going to start with Gabriela. The Dayton Daily News recently reported that Dayton area school districts issued more than 10,000 out-of-school suspensions, with Dayton City Schools reporting 3,843 out-of-school suspensions. Do you believe those suspensions are the best way to discipline students? And if not, what do you consider a better alternative?
Absolutely none. I don't think that's the best option. As a matter of fact, I think it was about 3 years ago where I raised awareness about this fact along with other members of the community, where they were even suspending kindergartens. And so let's just sit back and think about what's going to happen to those students that are going to be suspended. Where are they going to go? What are they going to do? To me, that's a form of punishment that is kind of arbitrary, and I think that we need to think more in terms of logical consequences. And perhaps transformative mediation, restorative justice in the classrooms will be a better way to solve the issues. I think that we need to train the students and the teachers to be able to solve the problems within the classroom, within the schools, because that will really empower the students, and not only would they be able to solve the problems within the classroom, but this will carry over for the rest of their lives.
Okay, all right, thank you so much. Okay, Dion, the Dayton Daily News recently reported that the Dayton area school districts issued more than 10,000 out-of-school suspensions. The Dayton City Schools of that number had 3,843 out-of-school suspensions. Do you believe that these suspensions are the best way to discipline students? And if not, what would you consider doing in its place?
So that's a great question. So suspensions are not the best means of redirecting behavior. I believe that restorative justice, I was a restorative justice coordinator in Dayton Public Schools for 7 months before the district dissolved those positions. I happened to be in one of the schools at Dayton Public Schools that was considered to be one of the worst schools in the district as it relates to discipline and behavior. And in 7 months, we were able to change the behavior, the culture and climate of that building by almost 300%. And it was through restorative justice. Same young people, but we had to change the mindset of adults. So what the district could do better is reinvest in restorative justice practices, train individuals in those practices, and we need those in every one of our school buildings. I believe that with restorative justice, not only do you change culture and climate, but you also have an opportunity to help meet the needs of those students holistically, because some young people will act out because of their environment, what's going on at home. And we have to be able to address those needs of the students holistically.
Okay, thank you so
Yes,
much.
ma'am.
Thank you. And Joe, the Dayton Daily News recently reported that the Dayton area school districts issued more than 10,000 out-of-school suspensions, with the Dayton Daily News reporting 3,843. Do you believe that out-of-school suspensions are the best way to discipline students? And if not, what would you consider a better alternative?
Sandy, you're going to get the same answer from me. The out-of-school suspensions are not the best way. At my daughter's school, Ruskin, they had a very active program for restorative justice, which of course is a form of in-school suspension, but it takes a lot of training and it's a lot of work. And I was able to talk to the coordinator and find out how it works, and it does work. So they need to put the money into training for restorative justice practices, and to get so that we have staff that are trained in that program, and I think that would be helpful. It's true that it was going on in some schools and then it was stopped. It needs to begin back up again.
Okay, thank you very much, Joe. Now, Dion,
Yes, ma'am.
with the next question, we're going to start with you. Unfortunately, active shooter drills, known as ALICE drills, the acronym, are a necessary part of today's student experience. Recent reports by the New York Times, the Boston Herald, and NBC News say these realistic active shooter drills can cause stress and trauma for students, especially the youngest students. What can schools do to avoid counterproductive fear and anxiety among their students? What additional safety measures can be taken to protect students from gun violence?
So that's a very good question. I think that to start, we have to begin to educate not only our students and families, but also the community. I believe that we have to engage in dialogue, our health community, our school community, and figure out ways how to address the much needed lesson, but how do we do it without causing a lot of trauma in our younger scholars. I think that in order to reduce the gun violence in our schools, once again, it becomes a community conversation that I believe that the schools, our legislators, our community resources, whether it's healthcare, whether it's superintendents, whether it's teachers, a collaboration of educators and legislators coming together saying, hey, how can we address this much needed conversation but at less cost of causing trauma for our young people.
Okay,
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And Joe, unfortunately, shooter drills, known by their acronym ALICE drills, are a necessary part of today's student experience. Recent reports by the New York Times, the Boston Herald, and NBC News say that these realistic active shooter drills can cause stress and trauma among students, especially the very youngest students. What can schools do to avoid counterproductive fear and anxiety among their students? And what additional safety measures do you think can be taken to protect students in our schools?
I have been through ALICE trainings, and yes, they are stressful. And I do not believe that our students should be subject to that at all. I'm not sure if it's a state law, but no, I really don't believe our students should be. It was stressful for me when I did it. I think I nearly sprained something in the process. ALICE training is very stressful. I am not a security expert, but I'm sure we can come up with some other security solutions, even if we have to put money into it. We're sitting on $100 million, which the Dayton Daily News also reported. I believe we have the money to invest in our children's safety and security and to do it with some peace of mind. I do not want guns in our schools at all. I do not, and I know that our teachers do not want to be carrying guns. So, yeah, I'm not a security expert, but I believe we have the resources to try to come up with some solutions for security for our students that do not cause such distress.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Joe. And Gabriela. Unfortunately, active shooter drills, known as ALICE drills, are a necessary part of today's student experience. But recent reports by the New York Times, the Boston Herald, and NBC News say these realistic active shooter drills can cause stress and trauma, especially among our youngest students. What do you think we can do to avoid counterproductive fear and anxiety amongst our students? And what additional safety measures do you think can be taken to protect our students from gun violence?
Okay. I want to illustrate that point. I asked a parent one day why she was homeschooling her kids. And she said that the determining factor was when her son was probably second grade. He was in a drill, and he came home really upset. And he was upset for 2 days because all of his peers got the good spots, and so he didn't, which means he was dead. And that was extremely traumatizing for him.
Oh,
Now, if this is traumatizing for Mr. Lacey, imagine what this is going to do to a child, especially during early childhood. They don't understand, abstract thoughts the way we do. And I don't think that we should be subjecting them to these drills. I think there's other measures that need to be taken. My son, for example, who went to Stivers, hated the fact that he was seen as a criminal until he passed the metal detector test, and then he was a student. We need to kind of change the way we go about this. I don't know, perhaps checking in the structure of the building and figure out how we can lock down classrooms or something without really jeopardizing the self-esteem and the psychological well-being of the students.
okay. Thank you, Gabriela. Okay. Our last question here is on vaping, and we will start with Joe. Vaping is on the rise among teens and is now seen as a serious health risk to young people. What can schools do to educate them about the risks of vaping? And will you review your school policy regarding tobacco and drugs, including vaping?
My understanding of the current policy is there's no, it might just say no smoking on any grounds, Dayton Public School grounds. So that includes the campus. Anybody that wants to have a cigarette needs to really get off the property completely. I think this should be extended to vaping. If it is not, I'm not sure if vaping is in the definition of smoking. But yeah, it's a dangerous. It's a dangerous habit, a dangerous drug, and I think it should be kept off of our property if people choose to do it. Any information that the district within their health classes at the appropriate at good times, I think should be made available to children so that they know and they have the information to make a good choice about vaping also.
Okay.
So that's pretty much my understanding of a question. Yeah, I've not been asked before.
Yes, okay.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, there's always new ones coming up.
Yeah.
So, may we go to Gabriela? Vaping is on the rise among teens and is now seen as a serious health risk to young people. What can schools do to educate students about the risks of vaping? And will your school review and update policies on tobacco and drugs to include vaping?
Yeah, vaping is a relatively new trend, and I don't think we have enough research long-term yet to determine the long-term effects of it. But by the looks of it, by the recent outbreak of lung infections that is affecting the country, and it seems to be related to vaping, I think it's not good for our health. I think it's actually detrimental, and I don't see that vaping would be a necessity for learning, and I would be very comfortable adding it to no smoking, no vaping policy.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Gabriela. And Dion. Vaping is on the rise among teens and is now seen as a serious health risk to young people. What can schools do to educate students about the risks of vaping? And will your school review and update policies on tobacco and drugs to include vaping?
So I think that's a good question. I think as it relates to vaping and this new trend, that the school district would be wise in partnering with public health to provide resources and information to the adults, the teachers first, and then creating a curriculum if needed be to share with the scholars in our buildings. As it relates to policies and procedures, one thing that I would be interested in is to do a pre-survey. How many of our scholars in our buildings are into vaping? How many of them use tobacco products? How many of them are smoking? And based off that survey, that information that we gain from our students, then create some informationals in our buildings to help them understand the severity, the consequences that come with the choices that they're making. So being able to engage not only our students, but also our parents, because oftentimes behaviors are learned. So we may be able to both educate the student and the family at the same time.
Okay, thank you very much. In closing, we'd like to provide each candidate with time for a closing statement. So Gabriela, can we start with you?
Sure. We are moving in the right direction. We went from an F to a D in terms of the school district. We are closing the gap, but there's a lot more to be done. We were probably like almost at the bottom of the least paid teacher salaries. Mm-hmm. And so I think that we need to take care of our teachers. One of the most important aspects of academic achievement is that community building and the relationships between teachers, students, and parents. And we cannot do that if we don't have teachers that stay for a long period of time. We need teachers that are within the community, that they know the community, that are invested in that community, and that they're going to help the students. I think we need a lot more teachers. In order to build those relationships, we need to have at least a ratio of 20-1, and we're not close to that number yet. But we need to move in that direction. I think we need to have a better communication between all parties. I'm talking about the board, the teachers, the students. Everybody needs to be thinking about the student in the center of the learning process. We need to really start thinking a little bit more about that and get that idea of us versus them behind. And I think that we also need to closely look at the budget. We need to make sure that the money is spent wisely. If we have money to build beautiful buildings, I'm pretty sure we have enough money to get more teachers and more competitive salaries to be with our students.
Okay, thank you, Gabriela. Excuse me. Okay, Dion. In closing, we'd like to provide you with an opportunity to give a summarizing statement.
Great, thank you. My name is Dion Sampson, Sr., and I am running for Dayton Public School Board. I want to continue to provide a voice and service to my community and young people of our community. I stated earlier that I am a product of Dayton Public Schools, and it was an educator who saved my life. I graduated from high school to 1.6, but there was an educator who made me go to college, and I maintained over a 3.0 GPA at Central State University playing in the band.
Excuse me.
So I am appreciative to what I've received from Dayton Public Schools. I'm also appreciative from what I've received from the people in my community. So I want to continue working for this community and serving this community and ensuring that our students are receiving the best education that they could possibly receive in Dayton Public Schools. I stand on equitable distribution of resources in our community, increased quality customer service for both our students, families, and educators. So please consider me, Dion Sampson, for your next school board member.
Okay, thank you, Dion. And Joe, would you like to provide us with a closing statement?
Sure. I am Joe Lacey, and I'm running for the Dayton School Board. I am a Dayton public school parent. My daughter attends Ruskin. She's in the 5th grade there. I'm an active member of Ruskin's parent group, the PTO. I'm the treasurer of that group, and I have been for quite some time. I actually helped start the group. I'm a certified public accountant, and a quick note on the budget. I think in the past budget, Dayton Public School budget, salaries for regular teachers, regular education teachers, went down $4 million, while administrative costs in the budget went up several million. I think more needs to be put into the regular education budget, especially to let us have lower class sizes. I think lower class sizes would help a lot to give our children more individual instruction. I'm a neighborhood volunteer. I'm secretary of the Oregon Historic District, and I served my country in the United States Peace Corps in the Solomon Islands in the South Pacific. And I ask your vote for Dayton Public Schools Board of Education. That's Joe Lacey. Thank you, and thank you to the League of Women Voters.
Well, thank you. And thank you all for your participation today, and good luck in your campaigns.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
The League of Women Voters encourages all candidates to run an issues-oriented campaign. Our goal is to educate the voting public and strengthen our elective political process. We encourage everyone to vote on Tuesday, November the 5th. The ever-popular League Voters Guide will be available in all libraries and on your doorstep the week of October the 14th. Whether you vote early or absentee or at the polls, your opinion matters, and your vote is what makes democracy work. Thank you. Thank you from the League.